November 1923. Germany's hyperinflation had virtually destroyed the country. Prices had skyrocketed.
To Hidden America Stories. Uncover the truth and subscribe for more.
Even billions of marks were not enough to buy a single loaf of bread. The value of money had fallen so low. Burning bundles of banknotes for warmth was cheaper than buying firewood. In other words, the backbone of Germany's economy had completely collapsed. Millions of young people were unemployed, there were no jobs, food was scarce, and ordinary people had lost their life savings. At that time, hardly anyone believed Germany could ever recover from such a crisis. Yet, in 1933, a new leadership came to power. Remarkably, within just a few years, Germany was transformed into one of the most powerful nations in Europe. Germany rapidly expanded its heavy industry and manufacturing infrastructure, building a vast logistics and defense network that soon expanded its influence across Europe.
The underlying question remains, how did Germany undergo such a rapid economic and industrial transformation during this era?
How did a country that was on the verge of bankruptcy, where people could barely afford 2 meals a day, manage to build an army capable of invading France, Poland, and Austria? How did Germany finance its rapid economic recovery and rearmament in the 1930s?
World wars in school, I have wondered how Hitler turned a devastated Germany into such a powerful nation and restored the Germans' lost national pride.
The answer is surprising. Hitler's so-called economic miracle was, in many ways, based on a massive financial scheme. It was one of the biggest government-backed financial deceptions in history. It all began after the end of the First World War. Germany suffered a crushing defeat, and the victorious Allied powers imposed the Treaty of Versailles. Germany was forced to accept responsibility for the war and pay enormous reparations for the damage it had caused. These reparations crippled the German economy. Germany had to pay around $2 billion every year to the Allied nations. To meet these obligations, the Weimar government printed huge amounts of money, believing that increasing the money supply would stimulate the economy. Instead, it triggered one of the worst episodes of hyperinflation in history. Between 1920 and 1923, the value of the German mark collapsed almost daily.
At the beginning of 1923, $1 US was worth about 18,000 German marks.
By July, it had risen to 305,000 marks per dollar.
By November 1923, it had reached an unimaginable 4.2 trillion marks per dollar.
The consequences were devastating. A meal ordered in a restaurant could cost more by the time it was served than when it was ordered. Restaurants changed their prices every half hour because the cost of ingredients kept rising.
Factory workers were often paid twice a day. Wages received in the morning had lost much of their value by the evening.
People who had spent their entire lives saving money suddenly found that everything they worked for couldn't even buy a single loaf of bread. This was the state of Germany's economy at the time. Germany was slowly beginning to recover from the economic disaster when the Great Depression struck in 1929. Banks in the United States collapsed, and the crisis quickly spread to Germany. One German bank after another failed. Businesses shut down, and unemployment soared. By 1933, nearly 6 million Germans were unemployed.
Families sold their furniture and personal belongings just to buy food.
The job market was so desperate that engineers and teachers were forced to beg for work. Germany was descending into chaos, and the Weimar government seemed unable to find a solution. It was in this political turmoil that new autocratic leadership rose to power. Germany's economy devastated twice, first by the hyperinflation of 1920 and then by the Great Depression of 1929. The new leadership promised to restore national pride, rebuild the struggling economy, and strengthen military forces during a time of crisis. However, there was one major obstacle. The Treaty of Versailles strictly limited Germany's military. Germany was allowed to maintain an army of only 100,000 soldiers and was forbidden from producing tanks, military aircraft, or submarines. Hitler had no intention of following these restrictions. He was determined to rebuild Germany into a military superpower. But there were two serious problems. First, Germany did not have enough money. Second, the rearmament had to be carried out in complete secrecy. If Britain, France, or other allied nations discovered that Germany was secretly rebuilding its military, they could intervene before Germany became strong enough to defend itself. This is where Germany's secret economic weapon entered the picture. The man behind the strategy was a brilliant German economist and banker. During the hyperinflation crisis of 1920, Schacht had played a key role in stabilizing the German economy by introducing a new currency backed by land and industrial assets.
In March 1933, a new president was appointed to the central bank to oversee the nation's economy.
A year later, he was entrusted with further responsibilities as the Minister of Economics. The economist was given a difficult mission: find a way to finance a secret military expansion without causing another wave of hyperinflation. Building tanks, aircraft, ammunition, and weapons required enormous amounts of money. The government could not simply print more currency, because that would trigger inflation again. Nor could it openly borrow money from the central bank, because foreign governments would notice. So an ingenious financial mechanism was devised. In 1934, he created a company called the Metallurgische Forschungsgesellschaft, better known as MEFO. On paper, it was a private research company. In reality, it existed only as a shell company. It had no real office, almost no employees, and only a small bank account with about 1 million Reichsmarks. Its main purpose was to serve as a financial instrument for Germany's secret rearmament program. Four of Germany's largest industrial firms, including Krupp, Siemens, IG Farben, and Rheinmetall, became shareholders in MEFO. These companies possessed the technology and manufacturing capacity needed to produce Germany's weapons. Schacht then introduced what became known as MEFO Bills. These were special promissory notes that functioned much like government-backed checks. The German government placed orders for tanks, aircraft, ammunition, and military equipment. Instead of paying manufacturers with cash, it paid them with MEFO bills. The companies accepted these bills because they knew that the German government ultimately stood behind them. Although the manufacturers accepted the MEFO bills, they still needed real money to pay workers, purchase raw materials, and keep their factories running. To solve this problem, the companies took the MEFO bills to private German banks. The banks accepted the bills and exchanged them for actual Reichsmarks. The banks were willing to proceed because they understood that the central authority ultimately guaranteed the bills. Later, the private banks presented the same MEFO bills to the Reichsbank, Germany's central bank. In return, the Reichsbank credited the banks with funds. Interestingly, the central bank did not print large quantities of physical cash. Instead, it simply created credit through accounting entries.
In effect, money was created without officially printing banknotes.
The entire system operated largely on confidence and government backing rather than on physical currency. This arrangement gave Germany several important advantages.
First, it allowed the government to finance massive military production without openly increasing the money supply, reducing the immediate risk of another hyperinflation crisis, one in 1923.
Second, because the financing appeared to come through a private company and commercial banks rather than directly from the government, it helped conceal the true scale of Germany's rearmament from foreign governments. Using this system, Germany secretly financed enormous military buildup. Between 1934 and 1938, around 12 billion Reichsmarks worth of an amount that exceeded Germany's official national debt at the time.
Rapid military expansion reshaped the European landscape within just 4 years, defying previous international treaties. By 1938, it had become one of Europe's strongest military powers. At first glance, the system appeared brilliant, but it contained a serious weakness.
MEFO bills were not permanent. They had a maturity period of 5 years. The first bills were issued in 1934, meaning they would begin coming due in 1939. When that happened, the German government would have to repay billions of Reichsmarks. This created a major problem. Germany had never accumulated enough real money to cover these obligations. The Reichsbank had created credit rather than printing large amounts of cash, and the government's military spending had generated. If Germany simply printed the money needed to repay the bills, it risked triggering another catastrophic inflation crisis like that of 1923. If it refused or failed to repay them, confidence in the entire financial system could collapse, potentially leading to bankruptcy. By the late 1930s, the government faced a dangerous financial dilemma. The country's economic model depended on continued military expansion, while its growing debts were becoming increasingly difficult to sustain. This financial pressure was one of the factors that pushed Nazi Germany toward an increasingly aggressive foreign policy.
If you want to uncover more hidden truths about the history and architecture we lost, hit that subscribe button.
Thank you for watching Hidden America Stories. We'll see you in the next forgotten chapter. See you.